So, Andrew, you just finished Donella Meadow's Thinking Systems recently, and I haven't read the book, as I mentioned earlier. Like I've flipped through it. It's on my list of things to go back to. But I'm curious, what was one or a few of the things that really stood out to you while you were reading it?
So yeah, and the book is here. It was recommended by Chris Trotter, one of our friends, and he made some great points of it. On the cover is a slinky, right? And the slinky is there to illustrate why is it that when you hold a slinky from the top and you let it fall, it sort of bounces and at a certain pace and has its own cadence, its own rhythm, periodicity. It's because of the underlying structure of that slinky. And you didn't have to do anything. It's just the structure itself. It lends itself to that dynamic behavior. So this is the balance of structure and dynamics that Gene Kim's been talking about a lot. We've been talking about a lot. The book begins with what they call a systems zoo, where the idea is there's a whole bunch of common patterns. And she has a lot of diagrams in here showing, for example, the kinds of systems that you'll get, like what are called stocks, flows, and buffers in here. But then also they've done a lot. Her group originally was running a lot of simulations. And so you'll show like how the behaviors unfold over time if this is the topology. So if you've got this a stock of something and then you're pulling stuff out with a certain flow rate, and then there's a feedback loop and so forth. What behavior would you expect on over time? And so she basically categorized a whole wide range of models, emphasized the importance of keeping the models very, very simple, but said if you can't understand things as a system, you'll be confused by so many of the things that are happening in the world. So the newspaper just shows the headlines, the sort of very tip of the spear, the growing edge of what's changed in the world. But behind every headline, there's a system. There's some dynamic that's been unfolding over days, weeks, months, years, centuries, millennia. And she then goes into system levers and the different places where you can tune the levers. One is setting goals and changing metrics, but that typically has very little leverage. And she goes through a whole list of 11 or 12 of them. But one of the earlier ones is paradigms. Like, one of the deeper ones, can you change people's paradigm, the way you're thinking about things? Or can you even transcend paradigms? Can you recognize that everything is a model and that different things need different paradigms? So it was a great read, very deep, very readable as well, though. So highly recommend.
That sounds fantastic. I remember the paradigm aspect being brought to light by Chris in a prior conversation, and it really stuck with me, that idea of almost like the ladder of influence, right? But you sold me. I think it's time for me to pick up the book. It's even you flipping through those pages and showing illustrations, and I'm a totally visual learner, so that sounds really appealing to me.